Hey guys, what's up? We are getting so close to the release of Captain Marvel. And if you're like me, you're a fan of these movies. You were really wanting more after Avengers 3. Now, a lot of people really like that movie. Me, personally, it's not my favorite Marvel movie, but um, as what it's trying to do, what it's trying to be a part of, it's really ambitious. And so far, the execution of Infinity War was really, really good. And so some people are saying it's like the best thing ever and they're so mind blown by it, I'm not in that camp, but I see what they're doing. I see the ambition, and so far, so good. And I think that the next part will decide for me if, as a whole, these two movies succeed. Because to me, the movie's not really complete because it's a part one, which is why when I left feeling unsatisfied, I kind of could justify it to myself, saying, hey, it's okay to not feel satisfied because I knew going into this that this is not going to be a complete story. So I'm just trying to judge it as half of a story. And as half of a story, it's phenomenal. It's really damn good. And there's a lot of things about it that's really, really good. Lots of things with the directing specifically. It's not just like the storytelling; it's the directing that's really damn good. But again, it's Marvel, and they always nail the characters. Not, I mean, almost always. At least the Russo brothers who did Captain America: Civil War. While some people don't like that movie that much, I think it's one of the best ones. And they also did Captain America 2, which is again one of the best ones in my opinion. I like those movies, so I think it was a great choice to put them in charge of Infinity War. And I'm very, very happy for Endgame. I'm excited, And we're not even that far away. Endgame comes out like in April. We're really not even that far away. We're like right fucking there. It doesn't feel like it because there hasn't been a shit ton of trailers, but we're really right there. So now we are a day away before Captain Marvel debuts and on Thursday night. For a lot of people, they go to movies on Thursday night. Really, the movie comes out Friday, but it doesn't matter. It's like really you could just go watch it Thursday. I'm going to probably wait and not watch it day one, but I'm not going to wait for any reactions or any reception or any reviews. I'm going to go see it. That's the bottom line. I'm going to go see it opening weekend. I'm going to go see it. I want to support it and I want to see what it does. But we have to talk about something with this fucking movie before we can really dive deep into it, and that is the um, all the drama surrounding it. Now, I've heard some people say this is like Ghostbusters 2016 all over again, and I've heard some people say other things around that nature of people complaining about SJW culture and stuff like that. And I don't really want to dive too deep on my own opinions on politics on this channel, though I think I have more than once anyway. And But for anyone watching who's like not sure what side I'm on here, I want to assure you, don't really focus on that because I'm not really going to make a huge stand here. I'm just going to try to logically navigate myself through this conversation because I think it's important to separate art from the artist. The I don't even know her name, because she's kind of not a very big popular star. It's Brie something. Is it Brie Lawson or Brie? I feel like there's like another famous person named Brie that I might be getting this confused with, but I think it's Brie Lawson. I should probably just look it up. Yes, Brie Larson. I was mostly correct. I was saying like Lawson. Brie Larson. That's her name. I forgot. I thought that R was a W for some reason. Um, she is a very vocal SJW type person, and I don't mean to say that in a way that like is offensive to some people. And I don't think people are offended by SJW. I think when they hear it, they just kind of roll their eyes at it. But I think it's important that we do at least distinguish that there's people on the left who don't care about certain issues as much as other people. Basically, the reason why I say the term SJW is because I want to say she's not talking about certain left ideology, like she's not talking about climate change. She's not talking about um, democratic socialism and stuff like that. She's not talking about anything besides equity and equality. Like she's just kind of talking about racial and gender equality. That's really all she's talking about. And representation and stuff like that. These are phrases and terms that are typically associated with people who care a lot more about identity politics than they do with other politics. If you are really into identity politics, that's fine. I do think there should be more female representation and black representation in popular media. I think that before the other side gets mad at me, there is actually a ton of media out there with women and black people, a fucking ton, like in Mexicans and everything else, like anything you want. But the difference is it's a lot of those movies that feature all of those different types of people. Those are not always the mainstream popular movies or other pieces of media. A lot of those are like independent things or indie games or small books that never get big, or just random shows on Netflix that aren't that have like small cult following but don't get big, stuff like that. And in recent years, this has been changing dramatically to where I feel like there's so much women in movies. I mean, I feel like I can't. I mean, I feel like it feels like there's so much. There's still way more with men as like the main characters, but just feels like there's so much, and that's because there's so much more in recent year, way more than we're probably used to, and a lot of that is to do with this push. Since Anita Sarkeesian came out and kickstarted this whole fucking shebang, we've had way more female representation in everything, all forms of media. And I mean, just look at the Marvel comics where they're seriously hammering in minority and female characters just constantly. So, and while I think some of it is good and some of it is bad, and the thing is that the things about it that are usually bad, in my opinion, have nothing to do with the fact that the character is a certain gender or race. It has all to do with the writing not being up to par and being kind of shitty, and feeling like they're focusing a little bit too much on the race and gender and not making a compelling and interesting story. Because when you think about some of your favorite movies, some of your favorite stories, a lot of them are probably like psychological and like deal with more of like your own mental state and stuff like that, or maybe certain scenes involving action, maybe action or comedy. And while comedy is kind of relatable, so you might, depending on the character's race, like, black comedy versus white comedy can be very different, just because of different perspectives in life. But when it comes to things like action and psychological stuff, like dramas, a lot of it doesn't really need to rely on race and gender that much, Whereas like comedy, sure, but the rest of it doesn't really need to. So, you need to keep those aspects up well. Like, I like a good plot twist when I'm reading something, and I like a good action sequence. I like when two characters are fighting because they have differing opinions and ideals, and their ideals are being represented in the way they duke it out. That's the classic duality between Batman and Joker, is what they represent when they're battling it out, and that's why you root for them. That's why you root for Batman. That's why people like Joker, because they think he's cool and stuff, or because I respect the Joker as an interesting villain who's like, an anarchist, crazy guy. And Batman like believes in the law. That's why he doesn't kill, stuff like that. So, that's why I like about a lot of action stuff. I like what characters represent in comics, and they wear the representation on their costumes. Captain America wears the fucking American flag because he believes in the American way. Not that he's like a big, cheerleader for America, but he believes in that American dream. Iron Man is completely made of iron. You know exactly what he's about. He's like this faceless guy, but he's trying to do the right thing most of the time. And that's the thing, like, he's like, he's industrial. He's rich. He's industrial. We could say that much. I'm not trying to get too deep into too many comic book characters, because I haven't been thinking about it too deeply before I came into this video. But let us talk about Captain Marvel. Now, why is there such a shitstorm around Captain Marvel? To be fair, there was a bit of a shitstorm before Black Panther, and there was a bit of a shitstorm before Wonder Woman, because anytime you talk about a minority or female character, there's going to be a bit of a shitstorm, but mainly because of both sides. It's never just the one. With Wonder Woman, I remember there was like this showing that they said only women could go see, and it was like, I don't know, I don't even think it was that many theaters. I've actually, I wouldn't be shocked if it was only one, but I think it was just like a few of like one mainstream theater brand or whatever. I don't think it was even that big of a deal where they said like women could come see it early or something. And it's like, okay, they're getting to see it early and whatever, but to me, and and then people got really mad about that. People got really mad about that. To me, I didn't like it, but only because to me that has nothing to do with Wonder Woman as a character. If you watch the Wonder Woman movie, it's not about how women are. It, I don't know like what they are trying to say when they're saying only women can come see this. Like I don't know what the point of that is, because Wonder Woman is a movie that can teach men and women. You want men to see movies about women being just as good as men. You want men to see movies about women and female equality and female empowerment. You want men to see those things because you want men to turn around and respect those women. Yes, I agree. It's important for women to respect themselves and our society. Sometimes that's not always, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes women, see images in advertising and other places that make them feel worse about themselves, make them feel like they're not being the right kind of woman that will make everyone happy or something like that. And I agree that women need to see movies about female empowerment, but so do men. And also, I would argue that Wonder Woman is a movie about women and men coexisting. And maybe that's why I've always liked Wonder Woman so much, because throughout my life, everything I've seen, whether it would be the Justice League cartoon or reading actual Wonder Woman graphic novels and other DC graphic novels that feature Wonder Woman, which I have done for a long time now. I've been reading Wonder Woman, and she's been one of my favorite superheroes for a very long time. And part of the reason why I like her so much is not because she's a woman who kicks ass. To me, I've known plenty of women and superheroes that kick ass. I like Wonder Woman because of what she stands for. She wants to work with men. She knows that the only possible way for humanity to succeed is for all of us to work together. And she faces down the darkest horrors of man's world, and she tries to bring some peace into it from her woman's world, because when I say man's world and woman's world, like most of the earth is controlled by, it's like a male dominated society, and her society was not. So, but it's about coexisting together and learning to love each other and accept each other and build each other up and help each other. That's important. And it's not just that women have to do it for men. Men have to do it for women back. That's hard pill for some men to swallow. And I'm not trying to preach to all men. I just think that, if they do their part, we gotta do our part too. And that's honestly a beautiful message to me. That's one I think that everyone can get behind, where I think everyone could agree with that, at least at its base core, like whether or not you agree with the feminist agenda or whatever else, you could at least probably agree that women and men should treat each other with respect. That's you got to start there before you can work on anything else. And so that is a good story involving Wonder Woman and why I like Wonder Woman. And I feel like the movie wasn't preachy, and it captured that essence of what it means, what Wonder Woman means to the DC universe. And I think it's why Wonder Woman is by far the best DC movie, period. It doesn't even come close. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's just a woman superhero. It has everything to do with the fact that that movie is absolutely beautiful, and Gal Gadot and Chris Pine actually have good ass chemistry, and they're really fun to watch in love together. And it's actually just a brilliant fucking movie. And when he's begging her to not try to be a hero, and she just does it anyway, it's one of the most awesome scenes I've seen in any superhero movie. It's honestly inspiring. I seriously adore a lot of that movie. Let's talk about Captain Marvel. I am not so sure that the Captain Marvel movie is going to be as awesome as the Wonder Woman movie. Now, the Wonder Woman movie could have been one of my first superhero movies if it didn't have one of the cheesiest and most stupid, horrible endings I've ever seen. They really dropped the ball towards the end of the Wonder Woman movie. But when it comes to Captain Marvel, Marvel movies usually have a very good pacing throughout. There's usually some light comedy that I actually enjoy. Sometimes there's moments where I say, "What?" And other moments where I'm like, "That's so cool, that's written so well, that's going to fit into the universe so good." And I feel like that's what I'm going to do. Honestly, I feel like I'm going to enjoy this about as much as Black Panther. Whereas Black Panther, I really liked the villain a ton, and I liked other certain aspects. I liked the idea of Black Panther's superhero abilities. I liked that he could talk to his ancestors. That's what a lot of ancient tribes actually believe they can do with drugs, and so I like that he could take something and talk to his ancestors, and he had the power of all of his people behind him, and that's his power is that he's a fucking king. That's his power. His superhero power is he's a fucking king. Like I like that idea, and he represents that really well. He's a very different kind of superhero, and it's really well done. But you know, when it comes to the action sequences, oof, that movie, fuck, the final battle, the battle with the car chase, and all that other stuff. A lot of it was just kind of wow. That movie's hard to watch, and that's the problem with Black Panther for me. To me, my favorite parts of the movie is when you get to see T'Challa fist fighting against the other characters in like this very tribal like one-on-one combat thing, and it's this beautiful landscape where they're fighting in this water, on this mountain, and it looks amazing. You know, to me, that's the awesome. That's like the best part. And also, I really like all the stuff involving Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. I think Killmonger's a very good and interesting villain. So I really liked what they did with that. Um, and Michael B. Jordan's just fucking a brilliant actor. He really is. He's just a brilliant actor. And it proposed a very interesting and awesome question about like how should there's a very deep topic and we have to talk about it. I don't think I would appreciate that in Captain Marvel. I don't think I would like them to try to preach a message about equality with women and stuff in Captain Marvel. Now, there's probably going to be at least one joke where someone doubts her because she's a woman. And I have no issue with that because I feel like that probably does happen in real life all the time where a boss or a business person or something looks down on someone because of their gender. I totally agree with that. I totally agree that probably happens all the time. So putting something like that in a movie would be relatable. But the idea that was proposed in Black Panther about black people living in a horrible situation and we need to, they need to get out of it. They need to rise up, and the ways they could do that. Should we do that through violence and taking over the world, or should we do that by funding education and aiding them and giving them a chance? Giving them some boosting their economy, giving them the ability to pull themselves out instead of kicking them while they're down and then saying how come you're not pulling yourself out, like what we're doing in real life. That is an awesome thought process to think about, and it kind of teaches young black men to, try to stay away from the criminal and violent lifestyles because there is a better way, and we have to do this the right way. That I like. That's a really awesome message from Black Panther, and it does fucking totally shed a light on the real issues. As far as like Captain Marvel, what I often hear what I often hear people on Twitter complain about involving feminism is stuff involving wage gaps and abortion laws and stuff like that. And while some of those feminist issues are great, I, Captain Marvel fighting for them doesn't. I don't see that. I don't see how like Captain Marvel needs to stand up for abortion. I don't think Captain Marvel needs to stand up and say I deserve to be paid. Like I fuck. Like if there really needs to be a joke about how she needs to be paid more than than she is, if she's not being paid as much as Iron Man or some shit, that would be so cringy. It's so bad. Like please just avoid. It's okay to talk about politics in movies, but let's try to keep it. Let's just try to not be so cringy about it. Like let's talk about like honestly, a better example would be just someone doubting her because she's a woman or something. Like the villain saying, "I will not hit a woman" or something like that, and she just like knocks his lights out or something. Like that would be fine. That would be fine. I just don't want any like real world politics trying to be thrown into this because I just don't think it's the same. I don't think the problems involving systemic racism with black people are the same as certain issues with women, you know? And while I do think that you could put in some funny lines in about how society views women differently than men, I think that's perfectly fine. But, you know, I don't want that to be the whole damn movie either. I would like the movie to try to stand up on its own merit and have nothing to do, you know, like yes, she's a woman. You can be honest about that. You can show how that actually would be. But I would like for the movie to stand up on its own and just be a good story. You know, kind of like how I was Captain Marvel. Like Doctor Strange doesn't really rely on the fact that the character's a male that much. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? And it did really well. Like a lot of these movies don't need to really rely on the fact that the character is a male. Now you can argue there's like love, romantic stuff, and like male pride and stuff like that in a lot of these movies. I think you could still write a very similar story with a female character, and you could depict the love and relationships a little bit differently because she is a female and not a male. You can depict it in a way that'd be more relatable for women. You can, like, you're not. She's probably not gonna go try save the guy or whatever. Blah blah blah, and what whatever else. And but I do think she would still try to protect her like quote unquote boyfriend or something. But then again, I don't even think she has a love interest in the movie. I'm not actually sure. And I don't know exactly how female demographics take that stuff if they want to have that in their movies. You know, I really don't even know. I feel like it would be fine, but I don't know. I feel like love interests are in like every single fucking movie. Period. So I don't know. You should probably just do it because they're in all the other ones, and it'd be weird if you didn't. But I mean, yeah. So let's talk about the other thing involving Captain Marvel. The other and probably the most glaring issue involving Captain Marvel, one I probably should have spoke about a lot sooner, is that she is just kind of being pushed on us really hardcore. And while the movies were following the classic stories, the Marvel comics have been trying to do their own thing and reinvent the wheel and tell a lot of new stories about new characters. And while most people like characters like Miles Morales, who is Spider Man in Into the Spider Verse, he's like kind of known as like Ultimate Spider Man or something like that. But he's Spider Man. He's from the Ultimate Universe, but he's just Spider Man, and he wears like black and red instead of red and blue, and other people just kind of call him Miles Morales because he's not Peter Parker, but they're both named Spider Man. So anyway, I think it's important that characters have different names when they're different alter egos. You know, it's kind of like when people refer to Dick Grayson as Batman, they kind of say it's Dick Grayson Batman instead of just saying it's Batman because Batman is Bruce Wayne. You know, so there really isn't ever an example of a superhero mantle being passed down to another character, which is why when people talk about all new Wolverine, they say all new Wolverine or they say X-23 Wolverine. Same thing with with Thor, female Thor. They just call her female Thor. They don't call her Thor. They call her female Thor because it's not the normal Thor. You know, so many things like that where it never works. You can't just replace the original characters like that. It never works. And So yeah, even with Dick Grayson as Batman, it's people still call him Dick Grayson Batman. They don't just say this is Batman now. So it's just that's silly. Um, Captain Marvel is the only one of those characters who actually really makes sense for her to just be Captain Marvel and not be Miss Marvel anymore, because she's been Miss Marvel for a long time, and Captain Marvel, like the actual Captain Marvel, like I think his name's like Marvel or whatever, the alien guy who gave her her powers, he's been dead for a long time. So the idea of her being Miss Marvel is just kind of weird because like why does she need to be Miss Marvel? You know, like she could just be Captain Marvel. And now there's a new Miss Marvel who's like a younger girl. She's like a teen girl, and she has like stretchy punches. I don't know. I don't know everything about this character, but she's like the new Miss Marvel, and I kind of like that because why would you? It's like if you killed Batman, and Batman was like never a popular character, and the main Batman that everyone knows is actually like Nightwing, and everyone just reads Nightwing comics, and they're like, why do we call her Miss Marvel? Just call her Captain Marvel. That's the only character I really think deserves to take up the mantle. But Captain Marvel, because of this, is kind of a newer character because she's been Miss Marvel for a long time. Like during the first Civil War, she was Miss Marvel, you know, and before that, a lot of the games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, she was Miss Marvel. I've always liked Miss Marvel, but she's never been a mainstream character. She's always been kind of like Tony Stark's sidekick. She's never really, or like just a complete shill for Shield. She's never really been anything interesting. She's always just been like one of the teammates that's just kind of there. You know, she's never, even nowadays, people don't really think she's that interesting. You know, a lot of her comics keep getting new issue number ones because they have to keep rebooting her comic constantly because they don't sell, and people don't are less likely to buy comics if there's a long number behind it. And it's like these are comics and stories that already aren't selling. They make new teams with her on them and stuff like that, like A Force, where she's the leader of the team, and people don't really like that either. You know, so like it doesn't matter. Like people just don't really like the Captain Marvel comics. They don't sell well, and part of it is probably just because Marvel's writing right now isn't very good, and Marvel comics just aren't that great right now. And most people kind of know Marvel as like they just want to read the classic characters. They don't care about Captain Marvel. So like if you wanted to push Captain Marvel, a good idea would be to keep writing her as part of the Avengers and give her more standout moments, make her have a little bit more of a personality, make her clash with Iron Man in a good, healthy way, in a way that doesn't just make him look like an idiot. Maybe make her wrong. Maybe make her look like an idiot. And then later on, she redeems herself. And when she redeems herself, she looks really cool. This is like, I'm literally just talking about Vegeta. I'm talking about Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Like, why does everyone like Vegeta so much? Well, he starts out as a very arrogant person, and he grows and evolves. And when he does the self destruction in the Buu saga, that's like the most redeeming quality about the Buu saga. Most people agree, even if they don't like the Buu saga, they agree that Vegeta's self destruction is a very beautiful moment. And you can do stuff like that to make a character grow. You can have them one way and then grow and become something stronger. Instead, they just kind of push this narrative that like everyone's not as cool as Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel's the coolest, and it's just like who cares, you know? Really, um, and honestly, a great story would to do that with because people kind of like Miss Marvel, from what I understand, is you could have Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel do stuff together, and Captain Marvel's kind of a dick to Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel realizes that and calls her out, and then Captain Marvel kind of grows as a person. You know, if you have these conflicts that make Miss Captain Marvel look bad, and then she could grow, and we could learn and fight alongside with her, that could be really good. But we don't really see that. Another thing about Captain Marvel is that they're trying a little too hard with her character design. They gave her this like really short haircut, and I have no problem with women with short hair, but her old design when she was Miss Marvel was extremely sexualized and totally made for a male demographic, and as a male that helped me like her. Like I really liked her design. I thought it was like really fun and different, and I like it was like all black and stuff, and I was like, oh wow, she looks cool. Like, and she can fly and shoot lasers. She looks cool. And now she wears this all red and blue bodysuit that, and she's like smaller boobs, built to be, you know, broader shoulders. She's built to have more muscle and stuff, and she has like really short hair, And it's like nobody likes that because females don't want to look like that. Women don't want to look like that. And men aren't really attracted to that. So the idea is that women can come in all shapes and sizes, and the problem is that that's a cool message, but as a product it's not really doing it. So you can do that all you want, but you need to really make a compelling character based around that. Like, you could maybe make a few issues or comics about how she's struggling with her physical appearance or something, and maybe that could be relatable to some people. But if you don't want to talk about beauty and how certain women struggle with their own appearances and how best ways to deal with feeling about your own appearances, or maybe saying this is beautiful, maybe pushing that idea that this is beautiful. But if you're too afraid to talk about it, and you're not going to write about it, like if you're too afraid to talk about it, but you're still going to interject that into your comics, that's just not going to do anything, and people are just going to be confused. You have to write a reason for that to be compelling. Now, the Captain Marvel actress she's not doing with her hair short. She's doing like long flowing blonde hair, which is considered sexualized. I don't give a shit. Like, every girl has their hair long. Like, seriously, like, I don't give a shit. It's the vast majority of women do it. Who calls it? I don't care if you say it's sexualized. It just doesn't matter. Um, but she's also not like in a super skimpy outfit like Miss Marvel was. She's actually pretty well covered. She's not really sexualized at all. Like, her combat suit is practical. It makes sense. It's got her colors on it. She looks like a superhero. That's the thing. She looks like a superhero, and that's fine. She looks like she could beat someone up. That's fine. So this probably doesn't have as much to do with the comics, but um, it's all part of like the fact that no one really likes this character. When you really think about it, it's very obvious that Captain Marvel was starting to be pushed in the comics for a reason, and that's that she. This is going to sound a little cynical, but the reason why Captain Marvel is being pushed in the comics is because Fox owns the movie rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four. All of Marvel's like best female superheroes are a part of the fucking X-Men. Like, no joke, they just are. When it comes to Storm, Rogue, Jean Grey, Emma Frost, like Jubilee, Kitty Pryde, like fucking, there's so many awesome characters, and they're all part of the X-Men universe. It sucks. You also have stuff like She-Hulk and the Invisible Woman, and those are really more. Those have a lot to do with the Fantastic Four. She-Hulk is her own character, but to try to like do a She-Hulk movie would, I don't know how. I don't know, bro. But it doesn't matter, because the thing is about DC is that DC has a lot of standalone heroes. Marvel has a lot of really good recreations and reuses of characters that used to be on teams or are female versions of other heroes. Captain Marvel, like it or not, is always going to be Miss Marvel in my eyes, and therefore she's still a female sidekick. Same with Spider-Woman, same with She-Hulk, same with the X-Men women. But the difference is that Marvel takes these female characters and makes them so compelling. They reuse these characters in great ways to the point where it doesn't matter that DC has Wonder Woman, who's a standalone female hero who doesn't need to be part of a team to succeed. She did for a long time, by the way. She was never that popular until, like way later. She wasn't popular in the 60s, she was popular later. So, I'm just saying. You can use these characters and it shouldn't be a big deal, okay? And in my eyes, if they made an X-Men movie, they could do all this other stuff and it would be great and fantastic. but we're not seeing that as of right now. My At the end of the day, we have Brie Larson, this actress who is saying stuff like people aren't going to watch this movie because they're misogynistic. And I don't think that's really the case. I don't think it's fair to say because a lot of people don't really like the character that much. And also, let's be real, a lot of these Marvel movies that aren't the big team ups aren't always as good. Now, movies like Doctor Strange blew me away. But not all those movies are that good. Guardians of the Galaxy blew me away. I'm hoping that these characters that are very less popular, that are only really known by the hardcore comic book fans, can do well. And so far, they usually do well. Besides Ant-Man, I think. But let's be real. Let's not kid ourselves. Captain Marvel is a female superhero who's only really being pushed on us. She didn't earn really anything on her own. She had to get pushed on us to be at this place. I'm still going to watch the movie. Especially as it's Avengers 3 kind of really set it up. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's people don't have a reason to dislike what they're seeing. I totally understand why people are skeptical, because this is a character who's been completely thrown down our throats. We're just kind of stuck with it. However, Marvel movies can normally deliver, and sometimes characters can be really bad and not that good, and then something happens where someone writes the character really well and makes them compelling. So I think this movie has a total chance to be really good. Mainly because of who's making it and where it's coming from. This is the big difference between this and the Ghostbusters 2016 movie. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between this and any other movie involving these issues. It's why people didn't really complain about the female characters in Star Wars Episode 7, and then they did in Star Wars Episode 8. Because there's a big difference in the way they're handled. For me, I'm going to watch this movie, and I am excited. But we'll just have to see how good it really is. But if it's not that good, hey man, a lot of the Marvel movies aren't that good. I just hope it's better than Ant-Man, and I'll be fine. Alright guys, I'll see you guys on the next one.